day 4 of Control the Controllables live at Wimbledon, brought to you by Novellus. And I apologise that we're a couple of minutes late today. As you can see, different locations all the time, and this is the reality, I guess, of life at Grand Slams. This is the insight that we are giving you, the series that we're bringing to you every night from Wimbledon, and it's real. And I hope you're well. Thank you for joining us. Please do get your questions in on the chat. We've had a lot of great questions coming through over the last few days, and more than happy to answer as many questions as we can. And as ever, we will have our major moments brought to you by Software Tennis Academy. We will have our tennis athlete player of the day. And then we'll have our Wimbledon story, the special story that our guests are sharing with us, with our amazing guest today in Jonny O'Mara. And Jonny made his way all the way to 2023 mixed doubles semi-final, as a wild card with Lizzie Barnett. And what a story that is. I remember watching that with a big smile on my face. I'm looking forward to hearing from Jonny. And then at the end, we'll have our ever-present Dear Dan, which is you getting your questions in, me answering the questions as best as I possibly can, hopefully in the world of tennis. And thank you as ever for joining. If you're listening on the podcast, then I hope you are enjoying Wimbledon. What an event it always is. And actually, sometimes when you're in the event and you're there as a coach, we had a heartbreaking loss today. My male doubles team, Andre Goranson and Evan King, match points up, lost in a very tight 3-set match. Great tennis match. Fair play to their opponents, Overleitner and Nusa. Fantastic match by all of them. But just to lose a match like that at Wimbledon is absolutely heartbreaking for the boys, everything that goes into it. But it is, again, it's the realities of what is going on. But yeah, let's. Hopefully you're hearing me okay. I'm hearing a couple of people say that maybe the Wi-Fi is not so great. Hopefully it's coming through okay. That's the best that I can do. I think I did spend a couple of minutes trying to get it sorted. But we're going to start off talking about the moment of the day. So we've had plenty of things going on. We've had the world number 3, Iga Swiatek, coming through relatively comfortably today against Karolina Pliskova, which could have been a little bit of a banana skin. Amanda Anisimova was in trouble, 3-1 down, break point to go 4-1 down in the third set, and she came back to beat Sofia Kenin 7-6 in the third. Marta Kostyuk was also in a bit of trouble today, but came back to win in 3 sets over Anna Blinkova. Emma Navarro also was in a bit of trouble, a set down, came back to win 6-1 in the third. Alexander Yala beat Maya Joint, who obviously the amazing win or the amazing experience playing Serena Williams the other day, again from a set down. And then on the men's side, we kind of cruised a little bit today on the men's side. The big guns, Zverev, Fritz, Di Manuwa all went through in straight sets. We do have Di Manuwa playing against Zach Zvider, who was on the podcast only a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't listened to that episode, do. That's definitely a one to watch, and a player to watch. And I think a very similar player actually to Di Manuwa in a lot of ways, both very quick around the court. So that's going to be interesting. And Arthur Feast went down to Matteo Berrettini. Maybe not a surprise per se, given Berrettini's form, also given Berrettini's history on the grass courts. But Arthur Feast, the seed number 20. But our first story to really dig our heels into is Arthur Ferry. What a win. He could have had Ben Shelton, but instead he had Otto Virtanen, who beat Ben Shelton the other day. And he won 5-7, 7-6, 6-3, 6-3 in just over 3 hours. First time in his career reaching the third round, carrying the British flag on his shoulders, certainly in the singles play. And now he faces the Belgium, Zizou Bergs, who will probably be licking his lips at that. Zizou will be waiting for him to come through, I think, for a long time. We know the ability that he has, and that he will be thinking that's a great opportunity for him, but maybe Arthur's going to be thinking the same. Big British crowd. I expect that middle Saturday at Wimbledon Centre Court. That is something for us to really look forward to. It's nice to have a home player still going in that middle weekend, which tends to be the main weekend in most of these Grand Slams. Jacob Fernley, the British player, went out. Katie Swan went out. Jan Schwansky is playing against Francis Tiafoe. I don't know where that one's currently at. Let me just quickly catch you up on that one. He is also out in 4 sets to Francis Tiafoe. So we only have Ferry left, no British women left. 13 Brits in round 1 to only 1 by day 4. Yeah, I'm not here to start throwing stones at that, but of course, the press and the media are going to be all over that. We mentioned it before. The title challenges through relatively comfortably. No one's really pushed today. Also, Leila Rybakina won comfortably, just dropping 3 games. But our tennis athlete player of the day, and people are asking me, what's this tennis athlete thing? Well, tennis athlete is this incredible program. If you think about all the tennis players around the world that play maybe at club level or even college level who don't have top class S&C team looking after them. A lot of people have access to tennis coaches, but not everyone has access to top class S&C coaches. And that's something that the Soto Tennis Academy in Spain has brought together remotely, is the ability to then have access to these top class S&C coaches that are really going to look after you, give programs, work with you in a personalized way. So if you want to check that out, check the links out. And that's who Tennis Athlete is. I know lots of you have been asking that question as well. And our player of the day is Arthur Ferry. I think it has to be world number 114, going through in another 4-set match. That's 2 4-set match. We saw his heroics also at Queen's Club. I don't know if it takes him into the top 100, but it won't be a million miles away. And his comments after the match in the press conference with Harry from Control the Controllables, he talked about how it just feels more normal in a way, mostly because my ranking is higher. I feel like I'm deserving to be here on my own rankings. Don't forget, he beat Caboli earlier this year. And he also won against Echeverry last year at Wimbledon. He's able to play lots of matches on the grass. It's definitely contributed to me being able to maybe turn that match around today. I saw Arthur Ferry when he was 10 years old, and he's the smallest 10-year-old I've ever seen, but probably the most skillful 10-year-old I've ever seen as well. Incredible. And I love watching him play. He's not the tallest, but he brings a stature on the court. He serves volleys. He takes the ball early. Beautiful hands. Has like a real creative expression on the court. And I love watching him play. And not too dissimilar actually to one of the other 10-year-olds I saw that was one of the most skillful 10-year-olds I saw was a young Jonny O'Mara from Scotland. And Jonny, who's going to be coming on in the next minute or two, Jonny really was incredibly skillful, and had a good career, got up to world number 44, and he achieved that back in 2019. He had 3 ATP Tour doubles titles. He was first coached by Judy Murray all of those years ago. He was kind of one of the ones that really came through on the back of the success that Andy Murray was having. He won 1995, so I'd have what Jonny would be 9 years younger than Andy Murray, or 8 years younger, 9 years younger than Jamie Murray. And he has that kind of, in that period of time, the Scots, they were really teaching that way of playing. I think Judy Murray was the leader of that, but, giving people all the different tools on the court. We have had Jonny on the podcast before, and he's someone that he's now working in Scotland and plays a role in those next Scots coming through as well. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but in 2023 had this amazing run to the semi-final. In the first round, they beat Roger Vasselin and Flipkins. They then beat Wes Kuloff and Leila Fernandez. Quarterfinal, they beat Matthew Ebden and Ellen Perez, and then they actually lost in a really tight match, 7-6, 4-6, 6-3 to the eventual champions Mate Pavic and Ludo Kitchenok. So and I want to pick his brains on that. I want to try and find out a little bit of his thoughts on our moment of the day, and then we'll then be jumping in to our quick fire questions. Now, I haven't received any news that he's going to be late. So far, we've had people late, we've had people early. So let's see if Jonny does jump on in the next 30 seconds or so. If he doesn't jump on, what I might do is I might move to the Dear Dan section of tonight's episode before he jumps on, because some people seem to be having slight issues getting on with us. So, Dear Dan questions. Let's see if we can get to one of them. Where are we at? We've got, what has been the most memorable atmosphere that I've experienced at Wimbledon, either as a player or as a coach, and what made it so special? Now, as I'm speaking, I believe that Jonny is entering the room. Jonny.
Hey,
Jonny O'Mara, a big welcome to Control Controllables. How are you doing?
it's been a while. For a while, so I'm loving it.
I'm not picking you up, Jonny. Let me see. Okay, I'm going to jump into that question. Please let me know if you can hear me. I wasn't picking up Jonny. Yeah, one of the things about us doing this live is sometimes it's we're gonna have to deal with some of these issues. So that question: what's been my most memorable atmosphere I've experienced at Wimbledon, either as a player, as a coach, and what made it so special? I would have to say, as a player, if I could give one of each, as a player, experiencing winning a match at Wimbledon and in the main event was absolutely something that I'll never forget. You know, I didn't have the most glamorous tennis career. So as a Brit playing at Wimbledon, we were 2-0 down in the first round, best of 5 sets, and we managed to come back and win in 5 sets in front of a great crowd, great British crowd, kind of all getting behind us. And that'll just be a memory alongside James Auckland, a good friend of mine, you know, serving out the match, just bizarrely feeling so comfortable and so clear on what I was doing out there, and being able to, I suppose, experience that with parents that were there, siblings that were there, girlfriend, now my wife, that was there, you know, good friends. And just, I think for someone who is British, there really is nothing better than experiencing that at Wimbledon. And that would certainly be my standout back in 2005 as a player. As a coach, it's hard to go against sitting in that coaching box on centre court for a final. Jonny, are we giving it another go?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's mine or yours, Dan. I'm guessing mine because you're an absolute pro.
Let me see if... Guys, I'm going to be back in 10... Okay, guys. I think we've lost Jonny again. Let's see. In terms of those experiences, having the experience of coaching at Wimbledon in a final on centre court, and what I actually had at that time, when the girls made the final, the first thing I did is actually called my coach, John Willis, who's coached me from the age of 8. I still call him my coach all of these years. Later, he was in Doncaster. He drove up. He was there just behind the coaching box, but also Ian Barclay, who was also my other coach. Ian Barclay was the coach of Pat Cash all of those years ago in 1987 when he won Wimbledon and went up into the box. And Barker's has been like the second dad to all of us British players when he looked after it at Bisham Abbey. And Barker's was also there as well. So to feel that kind of coach support of my coaches, that was a really nice, proud moment. Other questions? I think we're going to struggle maybe with Jonny. We might have to get Jonny in on another night. I think he seems to be struggling a little bit. And another question coming in. What are your opinions of the WTA finals being moved from Riyadh to Indian Wells just months before the tournament? Which place do you prefer for a tournament? That's from Stephen Patterson. Oh, it's a big subject, and I'm certainly not an advocate of Riyadh. Yes, we did have a great time there, and I felt there was some progress made in terms of at least the small little role that the WTA and tennis can play in all of the challenges that you have in a country like Saudi Arabia. But I also don't want to get too heavily into that because I'm not as informed as I probably should be on this subject, other than knowing that it is absolutely terrible what happens over there. So there is always this kind of feeling of why are we in a country like that? And people will say, well, why did you go? And it's maybe a fair point as well that people are making, but it felt like there was some inroads being made, with, we certainly in the little bubble that we saw and the young girls that were coming to watch and be inspired, the clinics that we put on, the conversations that were being had, making it accessible to young girls in particular, and also seeing how many women were there and part of that event, and just maybe having a small progression forward. So certainly from that side, it does feel more comfortable to be doing it somewhere maybe like Indian Wells. In terms of it as an event, I think a lot of it comes down to how well we're going to market it to be able to get what these top athletes in the world deserve, which is packed crowds, right, and atmosphere. And that's something that I've been fortunate to be at the ATP Tour finals in Turin, and that is just out of this world. It really is. It's like it's on another planet, and that is something that I think the WTA should emulate, and the top women in the world deserve that. I'd love to see the events coming together and having this real special end of year event for men and for women. That would be the dream. Indian Wells, I have my doubts. It's obviously a gorgeous place. I'm not sure it feels right to be playing outside. It's going to be cold in the mornings and cold in the evenings. It's already really slow, the conditions in Indian Wells, which maybe I don't like so much for my teams if we're going to be there. So there's obviously some real positives. It's beautiful and it's amazing, and I'm sure the hotel's going to be gorgeous and they're going to be well looked after. And I think the players are going to be very happy and comfortable there. But I really hope that they make this big deal and get a lot of fans there. And I guess that was one of my things in Riyadh as well. Is like, let's get it out there, inspiring the next generation. Indian Wells is an older generation of people. You do get people that love doubles there, which they do around the world. But you do also have, the demographic is older. So an event like that for me should have a lot of youthful people there as well that have been inspired by just these superstars, right? These amazing women that are just inspiring people to play tennis and inspiring girls to get out there and be able to be able to go and be superwoman out there, right? And so that would be one of my concerns about Indian Wells. But I think the way that the world is right now, there's no choice but to move. And I suppose the last thing I would say, the fact they've acted quite fast on this in terms of not waiting Cancun. We were in Cancun 3 years ago, but they waited too long for that. And then it just wasn't set up right, so it wasn't, they weren't really ready to run an event of that magnitude. So let's see how that goes. We have Craig Evans here asking a question online, so thank you, Craig. We always love, I think this is Craig Evans, being a friend of mine, but also someone who is just an all-round good dude, great tennis player, great tennis coach, and a paddle coach, but a big supporter of the podcast. So who are some of my best mates amongst the other two coaches? Nobody, can't stand them all idiots. Don't want to get involved in any. Is the answer that you might think that happens on the tour, but it's not true. We have a lot of friendships, I would say. Without it being, you are very busy with your own teams. I am very close to Bruce Lipka, who is a coach at Outlive. We went through lots together, and you do tend to you do create that or create that bond, and it's a genuine bond. And in the teams, I think that are very successful, there is this. I'm a massive team guy, so like I don't really believe in this. I'm your coach. You're her coach. I coach him. You coach him. We don't. The joy of doubles for me is like we're a team. We come together. That's what we do, and we've all got our roles to play in that. And I think it's something me and Bruce were able to do really well with Gabby and Erin. And and I think that does massively attribute to the success. And the coaches, Gabby's got other coaches that help her. Erin had other coaches that help her. You kind of bringing and collaborating. So very close to Bruce Gee, who's the coach of Louisa Stefani and also boyfriend of Louisa Stefani. We've got a great relationship, built on talking about football and sport and many other things. He's a lot younger than me, so he makes me feel young, and we stay young, but we just genuinely get on. We did before Louisa and Gabby played. So that's just very easy and natural, that we have those. That's who you're spending the most time with as well. You don't have a lot of time. Craig Veal's a friend of mine who does an amazing job with a lot of doubles players as well. Mark Hilton, I love when I see Hilts. Me and Hilts go back many years, so I'm always excited when Hilts is around. Max, I'm not even going to attempt his second name, but who was on the podcast recently. We just naturally got on really well. He was Vicky Boko's coach for a while. He's now Pesci Perikar in his team. Ken Skupski, I lived with in college, and still good mates with Ken Neal. So enjoy time with them. Those are a few names, but we need you on tour. So I've got another mate who can put up with my nonsense. But I think all in all, I think people do get on pretty well. We have Jonny O'Mara. Do we have Jonny O'Mara? Can I hear you, Jonny? Let me see. Can't hear you, Jonny. No.
Dan, are you there?
We've got Jonny. We do have Jonny. There we go.
I'm trying everything I can here. I'm trying harder than the players at Wimbledon.
I mean, this is an effort. So thank you so much for the effort, first and foremost. We've run out of time. Thank you, Jonny O'Mara, great guest. Thank you.
That's probably the best thing to do with me.
Do you know what you are? I do appreciate it massively, and we're going to jump straight into it, Jonny. Now that I've got you, because first of all, nice to see you. It's been a while. How's life?
Life is good. Up in Scotland with my wife, we've got an 18-month-old now, which is a big change. Watching Wimbledon on the TV, it's actually the first year that I've not really been a part of Wimbledon for however many years now. So it's nice to kind of just sit back and enjoy it as a fan.
How does that feel when so much of your life has been around those events? Like, do you have that itchy feet? You want to be there, or is it just quite nice actually to enjoy it from not that other side, because you're obviously still heavily involved in tennis, but just how do you feel when you're watching it on TV?
I enjoy it. I can appreciate it, but I think as athletes, we're athletes, coaches. We're a weird breed, and it's hard to not see it and get itchy feet and kind of think, about playing, about being there in a coaching capacity. It's hard to kind of Wimbledon it's a pinnacle, isn't it? It's what we all want to do. Especially in Britain and in tennis, it's Wimbledon. That's all it is. So as much as I enjoy it, as much as I'm able to kind of appreciate what's going on and stuff, there is that definite, kind of itch to be around it, to live it, to breathe it. They say the grass is greener, don't they? They say the grass isn't always greener, but the greenest it can be is at Wimbledon.
That's for sure. And at the tender age of only 31, I put you. Is that about right? 30, 31?
31, yeah. I don't quite feel it, but 31, yeah.
So does that like I'm an old boy, right? I'm 46. Those times have gone. They're like they've sailed past. Like they're well gone. But you must be seeing, especially on the doubles tour, these guys 38, 39, 40. Was it fully out of your system, or is this still a little itch to get back on the court?
It's a good question. I mean, there's definitely a little itch. I love competing in whatever I do. My last match was Wimbledon semi-finals mixed doubles, and obviously I had been working with Andy, but I continued to work with him for 18 months, and it was hard work. Being around such an elite team, an elite guy, seeing everything that kind of went on there, and it was pretty tiring. And when I was kind of finished and stuff, like you really, you live and breathe it, and being around, like I said, like a team like that, it's absolutely everything you do. So once I was done, I was a little bit tired, and I hadn't really thought about if I was going to carry on playing. We then had Lottie, my beautiful daughter, and kind of didn't really think about going back on the tour or anything like that. I still have some feelings, and potentially I might explore that. I don't know. Not that I miss the game or anything. It's more, like you kind of mentioned, there will be a stage where I'm 45, if I'm lucky enough to get there, and I might think about, I was an athlete, I had the capacity to be an athlete for maybe a few more years, and I think maybe that's something that, plays on my mind a little bit. So you never know. But to be honest, I'm loving what I'm doing at the moment. I'm loving kind of being a little bit more in player development. I'm finding that very enjoyable, and also, just being at home, being a dad, doing a bit of commentary and stuff, watching the tennis. I can't really complain. So.
But Jonny, and this wasn't part of the script, but it is what I'm feeling as I'm talking to you. So I'm gonna say it right, and I said it before you came on. You're one of the most gifted young players I ever saw. We were talking about Arthur Ferry, and when I think back to like under 10, under 12 tennis, the two most gifted junior players I saw in that sort of era when I was starting to coach was Arthur Ferry and Jonny O'Mara, right? So you there's no question that you still have the ability. That's not going to be a problem, right? So the second thing I'm going to say, Harry Heliavara, who I worked with for a couple of years, who's gone on to be a multiple Grand Slam champion, stopped playing for 3 or 4 years to work in the city in Helsinki, around about your age. And then made his comeback, and he's gone on and experienced all of these with maybe a bit of a different outlook as well, right? Because you would have created this different outlook, having the standards of Andy Murray around you for 18 months, then seeing the sport from a different light. So, not that I'm trying to get you to give us an exclusive. However, the worst emotion in the world is regret. So, make sure you don't have any regrets.
No, I appreciate that. That's a big compliment. I did a commentary on Arthur Ferry last week, and that boy can play some good tennis. It was really good to watch. But no, it's an interesting game, tennis. And to be honest with you, like there's that side of the things. But I know I've been listening to you guys the last couple of days as well, and I know you touched on the whole doubles thing as well, which is obviously very interesting right now. But there is also that side of things that, I'm also I'm a huge fan of doubles. I'm a huge fan of tennis. I'm a huge fan of doubles. I do think part of the reason why I was kind of looking for other stuff as well was that I didn't actually enjoy the way doubles was going a little bit. And I have to be honest, I'm not 100% enjoying the way it is now. I think there needs to be a few changes to it, because I think these guys are absolutely unbelievable. The double specialists, what they are doing is amazing, but it's kind of made the game a little bit boring to watch, in my opinion. I think I much prefer now. I'll watch mixed doubles for sure, because I think that is a lot more enjoyable to watch. The women's doubles I'm finding pretty enjoyable to watch. I feel like the men they're so good. It's big serve. It's kind of taking big risks on returns, and it's kind of 2-3 shot rallies, and it's brilliant. But there's also that side to it. I do think the game doubles especially needs to change a little bit. I think they need to look at the product a little bit and kind of work out what can we do to make this a little bit more enjoyable to watch.
What would your one or two innovations be?
I have some interest. I mean, I really struggled practicing when I played on the tour. I found it really boring, to be honest, because you're kind of going bigger on the serves. The second serves, you're going bigger. Returns, you're kind of going bigger. Just to keep things fun, I would always change things up in practice. I mean, one of the things I did was, I'm not going to get into pickleball, but we stood behind the service box, and no one was allowed in the service box until someone served. That then requires a bit of skill for the returner. All of a sudden, the middle is open. You can dip it at people's feet. Because I think, doubles is amazing to watch. The reflexes, when you see these long rallies on a doubles court, it's incredible to watch. But we're just not finding a way to get those rallies out there, I don't think. A couple of things that I would do is 100% I would not be bringing in new balls at the 7 and 9 changeover. That's something I definitely wouldn't be doing. So again, I think that just speeds it up a little bit, and kind of we lose the opportunity of those 6, 7, 8 shot rallies. And I think to change it up from being something slightly different to singles, I wouldn't really be having any sit downs, because it's not physically that taxing. And I think, again, especially in the way that kind of the world's going now, everything's fast, everything's, we want to be watching stuff all the time. I think it would be good to have, sit downs every 7 games, something like that, and just give people constant tennis. I think that would be quite interesting.
I like it. Hey, this is a good subject to pick up. I love those things. I have to be a little bit conscious of time. And I want to bring your memory. You said it was your last professional match. You had this. I remember actually me and my wife watching. I'm trying to think now. 23. I wasn't at 23 Wimbledon because Harry Heliovara was on paternity leave. So I was at home watching as a fan, and I loved watching you guys play mixed doubles that year. Like, it was like the smile on your face, the energy, Missy was obviously, brought a brilliant energy as well. You guys just fully seemed to connect out there. And you went on a quite incredible run, right, which almost took you to the final. Tell us about that experience of mixed doubles that year, and just give us your reflections now, kind of 3 years on to that incredible run you guys had.
Yeah, I mean, I was incredibly fortunate to have great partners who, kind of dealt with me on the court because I was a little bit different character on court. I didn't take things crazily serious, and that's not easy to play against, especially not in a slam, especially when you're not really used to that. So it was actually 2022 was when I played with Lizzie Barnett, and we had a couple of crazy matches, especially that one with Jamie Murray and Venus. That one was just absolutely wild. And to be honest,
Yes, I remember that was it. Yeah.
As I'm sure you know, and a lot of other players know, you don't really remember those wins. You kind of get yourself into a place where you don't really know what's going on. You just kind of, I wouldn't say in the zone. I'm not sure I ever got to the zone, but you kind of get into that place where you're playing and it's all happening and you're reacting. And I kind of remember just, the noise afterwards and stuff like that. That was just an unbelievable experience. And then that helped me next year when I played with Liv Nichols. And we actually worked a little bit better as a team because, I mean, Liv's obviously doing amazing in the doubles now, but, she was so comfortable at the net. I was comfortable at the net. I really enjoyed playing with her. She helped me on my serve. I helped her serve. And it was, yeah, I think we lost our first set 6-love. I'd been in the box with Andy. I think he was playing Sitsipas, and I'm up like you have to be when you're Andy. You're up and down, and I think I did a little bit of something to my calf, and I like pulled my calf or something like that in the first set, and then yeah, we just kind of went on a run that was. Yeah, we didn't really know what was happening, and I kept on saying to Liv, I was checking out of the hotel every day. I had my stuff in the car ready to drive back up to Scotland as soon as we lost. And I think it's little things like that I think I probably brought to her that made her enjoy the experience a little bit more. It was, that's not really a normal thing, kind of coming in going, if we win, fantastic, but I'm going to have to find another hotel. That's a disaster. And I think that kind of calmed her down and made her enjoy the experience. And that was basically what it is. And that's kind of what I always played for. It was more about creating good memories, playing for those memories, playing with people I really enjoy. I spent a lot of my career with Scott Clayton and playing with moments for him. And that was probably my best Wimbledon memory ever, was making it to Wimbledon with him. That's,
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, you have like the innocence of the journey at that stage, and everything that kind of happens after, you get a bit more scar tissue. You kind of realize a bit more about the tour and stuff like that. But that first experience of playing our first Wimbledon with Clayton, that for me was, the greatest feeling and the greatest memory I have going back to tennis, to be able to do that with a best friend.
And do you think it's almost like, I always think expectations the devil, and it's almost, we've had this discussion with the players over the last few weeks of almost to have the ability to have the freedom to just play. And those two examples you've given there, Jonny, are like, you've given yourself the freedom to do that with Scott because of the journey you two had together and your relationship, and how that. I remember you talking on the pod about a bunny day that you guys had when you were first at Wimbledon. That kind of like freshness of coming in, and then the time when in with Liv in 2023 of like, okay, well, I'm kind of, if I lose, I'm all right with it, right? Because that's what I'm almost expecting. So it's not there's then a freedom to go and create, where I think as tennis people, we quite often, and I've used this terminology a lot with players, but I also use it with England football. Then you're not going to protect your way to a World Cup. Whereas, like, it always feels like England football team are trying to protect their way to winning the World Cup, and it's the same with people in tennis. You're not going to protect your way to winning the biggest events. You have to go and grab them and have the freedom to do it. So how do you get in that mindset when you actually aren't actually, rock bottom's the wrong word, but aren't in this position where you're completely okay with losing, and because you don't have a whole lot of expectations, like how it's quite a difficult headspace to get into, I would imagine, and I'm sure you had challenges with that in your career as well.
Yeah, 100%. And I have challenges now as a coach trying to kind of speak to the players that I work with and kind of get them into that mindset because it's always a balance, isn't it? And I think, look, I think the best thing you can be on a tennis court is vulnerable. I think that's the best thing that you can be is you can be out there, you can't be scared to lose. You can't protect your image. You can't be worried about kind of what's going on out there. You're vulnerable and you have to embrace that. And, I do think we kind of throw the words around about, enjoy the experience, enjoy. But at the same time, it's incredibly stressful. You have to enjoy that stress. You have to enjoy the feelings that come with that. And I think that's, look, it's not easy. It's a lot easier said than done. But I think it's something that once you kind of understand a little bit better, and again, having been in the coaching side of things now, I can see that a lot clearer, and it's more about just going on there, and you can't be scared to lose, and do everything you can to win, but know that, well, the opponent is also doing that, and it's an absolute war out there. So being okay with that, and yeah, and I think that's kind of where I got to at Wimbledon. I was always, and it's also like it's probably held me back at times as well because I mean I was just so pumped to be there, and I was so happy with any results I got. I was so happy with any slight success that I kind of got, which for me I loved. It was a lovely way of kind of playing stuff. But then I also, I was working with Andy, and he had a great win at US Open. His last US Open, he beat Mute, and I kind of came off the court and I came running round to him with that same sort of energy of like pure excitement of like, yes, mate, like you just won first round. It was a brutal match. Like I'm absolutely buzzing for you. And the first thing he said to me was, I'm a bit gutted Dimitrov won that match. I now play him in the second round. For me to then get that insight of,
Yeah.
right, that's how Andy operates. He operates in a way of that's done, now it's here. Whereas me, it was kind of like, and especially when I was with Scott, we managed to get a win, and it was more, how good's our practice day going to be tomorrow? It's going to be unbelievable. We're going to have a coffee. We'll go for dinner tonight. So that kind of holds you back a little bit. So it's a balance of kind of finding it somewhere in the middle, I'd say.
Great insight. Are you ready for our quick Wimbledon quick fire?
100%, I'm ready.
What's your best Wimbledon memory as a fan?
As a fan, easy, and I'm sure it's a popular answer. Andy Murray winning Wimbledon, absolutely sensational scenes.
Finish this sentence. When I think of Wimbledon, I think of
grass.
Who would you most like to play on centre court, past or present?
I mean, probably someone that's not very good, so I could get a win. I mean, obviously you'd want to say Federer. You guys can smoke me, so that's not fun. So let's say you, Dan, and I'll try and find a way to win.
What song would you walk onto centre court to?
Jerry Cinnamon Cantor.
If the whole calendar was played on grass, what would the top 5 ATP and WTA look like? Would it be different to what we're seeing now?
No, I think maybe there would be a few slight changes, and I think below that would look different. But I think the top 5, I think the top players, they're different, and I think if it was on grass, they would find a way to be where they are now.
Who's your favourite ever Wimbledon champion and why that is not Andy Murray?
I mean, I would have said Federer so easily, but I just watched Rafael Nadal's documentary and I absolutely loved it. So, yeah, let's say Rafael Federer.
What is your guilty pleasure?
I've got plenty. I mean, I'm an absolute sicko for golf, so let's say golf. I could do it 7 days a week, 36 holes a day. It wouldn't be enough.
One thing that you would change about Wimbledon?
I don't think there's too much you would change. Right now, it would be. I still have a bit of scar tissue from when Andy played Tsitsipas, and he got the momentum in the match, and we had to stop because of the 11 p.m. nonsense. So it would be something like that. It would be. You can't have 3 matches on centre court and not have enough time to finish. So it's got to be, let's start the tennis earlier.
What's the best advice young tennis players should remember when playing tennis?
I think we touched on it about being vulnerable on the court. I think that's, I think it's gone a little bit too much of let's protect our image, let's try and look cool. I have a different view on what I think is cool. I think going out there and giving everything you've got, I think that's cool. I think that's changed a little bit now. I think it's more cool as kind of, what do I look like on the court rather than kind of what I'm getting up to out there. And I think it would be along the terms of that, and let's always develop. Let's always have the bigger picture in mind. I think at the moment we're getting a little stuck in what's happening in the here and now, and we're not kind of thinking about, well, what's the bigger picture? What does it look like in 5 years? I might have lost this match. I didn't play out the way I wanted to because I was scared about losing. Let's think about what's going to get me into a better place in 5 years. I think it would be something along those lines of let's keep the bigger picture in mind.
Very good. And the most important question, Jonny, who's going to win the World Cup? Is it coming home?
Yeah, I mean England are going to win, aren't they? England are going to win the World Cup, and clearly that means that if they do, I've called it here, so I'm happy. And if they don't, I won't be happy. Let's say that.
You're not going to. Hey, don't make the same mistake Andy Murray made all those years ago. What was it he said?
I tell you what, you should have seen my living room with Congo scored yesterday.
And you know what? I was supporting you boys as well. Until you lost like 7-0 to somebody, I was all about Scotland.
Yeah, but you're only supporting us because you know we're absolutely tough.
That's me. So come on, then. Who's winning it outside England? England aren't winning it. Come on, we're useless. Who's winning the World Cup?
England are winning it. Like Thomas Tuchel, great manager. Harry Kane, unbelievable footballer. No, I think you've got everything in your tool set to take out France and Brazil and Mexico and the likes of that. So yeah, I think England.
Doubling down.
100%.
I like it. So I like the right. I've learned a lot from you, Jonny. All about the mind games. Bring your bag into Wimbledon, pretend you're not going to win, and you go to the semi-finals. And we're doing the same with the World Cup. Thank you so much for coming on. Sorry we didn't have long at the chat. Thank you for the big effort to get on, despite some of our technical issues, and hope you and the family are well, mate. So thank you very much.
Dan, thanks so much. Keep doing what you're doing. It's brilliant.
Top man, we'll speak soon. Take care. So there we have it. Jonny O'Mara. Big thank you to him. Apologies for some of the technical issues today. This is now no longer going to be my spot over the next few days. I will find somewhere with stronger Wi-Fi. We got your questions answered. The one question that we didn't is, what is for you the surprise of this year's Wimbledon, win or loss, or changes on the ground? I don't think anything massively surprised me yet. Maybe Ben Shelton going out first round, a little bit of a shocker. I think the likes of Cerundolo and Cerundolo, players that won Queens, I'm not sure that's that much of a shock. Maybe Yannick Sinner struggling a little bit so far. It feels like people are on him a little bit more than they have been. But I don't think on the tennis side I'm seeing too many big shocks. Probably the biggest shock was the news we got about doubles this week, which is obviously that's been something that's kind of taking over, I suppose, my mind on that side of things. In terms of the grounds, everything there is updates. you know, you look at it from different lenses. Some of the work is actually the updates to the site aren't so good because they're no longer able to get outside little things and get fresh air, little bits like that. But all in all, Wimbledon is Wimbledon. We do love it for all of its quirks, for all of its history, tradition, and we're very, very lucky and grateful to be a big part of it. Thank you for joining us, guys. I will have another guest tomorrow. Calvin Betton is on tomorrow, who is the coach of Henry Patton, who is now multiple Grand Slam champion, and I'm sure he's going to have a few things to say on a few different subjects as ever. You don't want to miss Calvin. But until next time, I'm Dan Kieran, and we are Control the Controllables.